Welcome to the third episode of the Showgirl Connection. I am your host, Luann Chesick, and Diane Christensen is back again with me today.
Hey, hi
and
everyone.
We're so pleased to have her back again for the third episode.
I'm very excited.
And she will be our co-host in the fourth episode when we bring on Linda Spinks and Jill Rader.
I look forward to that too.
So that's going to be another great show.
Yeah.
Today, though, we're going to talk about who do showgirls become after their dancing days are over.
People want to know. Yeah, so we are going to talk about those transitions that we make into our second trimester of life and who we become and what we do. And it's pretty varied.
Yes,
amongst
it really
the people
is.
that we know. And I talk a lot about this in my book because when I was at the Lido de Paris in Ollie Lido, and I left in 1981, everybody had another career lined up or were already working as real estate agents and working 6 nights a week, dancing 3 shows on Saturday and pursuing other careers, myself included. I had started my acting career here, and I was doing commercials and voiceovers and fashion shows and photo shoots and feature films and local TV shows like Vegas.
Yes, I remember Vegas.
And I remember having 3 commercials on at once. And I was fully working 2 jobs and loving every minute of it because it's what I wanted to do. And when I had an opportunity to audition for The Young and the Restless,
wow,
and got hired, I told them when my contract would be up, which was July 1981. And I left the Lido to go to Los Angeles and work as an actress. And that led to me having a theater company with my second husband. And that led me to having an acting school for 33 years now. And my daughter and I teach acting.
And you were voted the number one.
Yeah, many times.
The number one acting teacher in Hollywood.
Yeah, many, many times by Backstage West, Reader's Choice Awards, and Children in Film. A lot of organizations have blessed us with that title. So we still do that to this day, and it's flourishing, the Christians in Acting Academy. So I knew that I did not want to be an old showgirl. I started working at 18. I worked until I was 30, and I retired. And I thought, if I wait any later, I will not be young enough to have an acting career. So I retired at 30, and I absolutely retired in the best show of all the shows that I did.
And that
worldwide. That was Ollie Lido.
In Las Vegas.
At the Stardust.
Yes.
Yes.
That was a fabulous show.
Donna, we talked about this the last time I was here, how phenomenal that show was, both in Paris and in Las Vegas. Now, when I was in Paris, I did not work Ollie Lido because it was early 70s.
Okay.
I worked, we did 2 different shows a night.
In Paris?
In Paris at the Lido. We did Bonne Nuit, and Grand Jeu. We did 2 different shows a night. So and I was a swing girl.
Wow.
So
what's a swing girl again?
A swing girl is the person that fills in for people that go on vacation. So I was the swing dancing nude. So I had 10 parts to learn.
Wow.
So you learn 5 on one side of the stage and 5 on the other side of the stage, and you learn everybody's part. And back then, and I write about this in the book, in my new book, The Last Real Showgirl, how I had to wear those costumes. We did not have our costumes custom made when we were a swing. So you had to fit into, fortunately, most of the girls were between 5, 7, and 6 feet tall.
Yes.
Most of them were 5'7" to 5'11".
Yeah.
So it was pretty easy, but there were some times that the boots were tight or the headdress didn't fit. In fact, we had an Atlantis number in Paris, and beautiful big seahorse heads that we wore with beautiful draped, goddess wear underneath. And that evil seahorse head never fit. I wound up with the tabs in my eyes, and I remember being on the stage going, "Help me, I can't see." And you don't want to make the wrong move because those stages are full of hydraulics.
Right.
And you could be sucked into God knows where.
Yeah.
So I remember being drug off, and I remember Miss Bluebell coming back and saying, "Dear, what's the problem?" You know, she pulled on her ear.
Yes.
And I said, "That seahorse head does not fit me. I don't know. It was made for whoever I replaced." And then when that girl came back from holiday, she'd been gone for a month. She came back, and then of course I was on to the next person's costumes, and she said it never fit me either. And as marvelous as those Falco costumes were, every now and then you'd have a headdress that just didn't click with your head or your face. So I wound up having to hold it and doing the choreography with one arm.
Yes.
And I know Miss Bluebell did not like that, but that was the only way I could see. It's the only way I could see out of those eyes. So those things happen. Did you
Yes.
ever have any costumes that were nightmares?
I was a swing in Hallelujah Hollywood for the Showgirls.
Okay.
So, you were dancing, where the Showgirls did a lot of step touches and moved around the stage.
Right.
But I remember, because their headpieces were really heavy.
Yeah.
So, and I have a really big head. And so I was swinging 12 Showgirl headpieces.
Right.
And sometimes you get off the stage and you just have this huge dent within minutes
Yes.
in your forehead if the hat didn't quite fit
I know,
right.
and the dressers would put foam inside
Yes.
to try and make them work for you. You've got this hat full of foam to try and make it work on your head, and they don't always.
No, they don't always. And
And-
you just have to make
Yeah.
do.
The seahorse covered the whole face.
Yeah, but like you said, most of the Showgirls were between like 5'10" and 6'2", so we were similar.
In Jubilee.
Yes, in
Yeah.
Hallelujah Hollywood.
In Hallelujah Hollywood.
Hallelujah Hollywood was the last Showgirl line
Right.
where Jubilee combined the Showgirls with the dancing
That's
nudes.
right.
Yeah,
And they became one.
yes. Yeah,
In Paris and in the Las Vegas Lido at the Stardust, we were dancing nudes. It said that on the program. I think it changed with Jubilee and Hello Hollywood.
yeah, Hallelujah Hollywood was the
Hallelujah
last
Hollywood.
one. Well, the Follies Bergère at the Tropicana, which was not a Don Arden, it was a Jerry Jackson.
Auditioned for Jerry for
Yeah.
that show.
Yeah, they had a Showgirl line as well.
Right. They were just
And
showgirls.
they did till the end, till the very end.
Right.
Yeah. So they
I
were the
auditioned
last.
for Jerry Jackson in 1971 when I first came to Vegas. And I auditioned for a new show that was coming in. And I wanted to be a showgirl in that show. They were beautiful.
They were beautiful,
They
but
were
they were-
curvy. They were tanned. They wore their peachy pink lipstick. They wore big, beautiful wigs
Yeah.
that looked, like bouffant hair.
Yes.
They were
But they were all really tall.
Stunning. And they were tall.
Yeah.
And they didn't do as much dancing as the dancing nudes later in my
No.
career. But they were so stunning you wanted to
Yes.
be. And I did get hired to be the swing. He had already cast the show when I got here.
Okay.
But Mr. Rudis said, you want to hire her. So I auditioned for Jerry, and he said, I could use a swing girl. So I was going into that show as a swing for
For the
the
Showgirls.
showgirls.
Okay.
He called them nudes, though. It had already started, and even in 71.
Yeah. But when it closed in 2010,
The Follies.
The Follies Bergère, 2010? 20.
Something like that.
Yeah, they still had Showgirls,
Right.
where Don Arden had
And that was such a
transitioned into
beautiful
dancing nudes.
showroom. It was such a gorgeous. The Tropicana, I thought, was one of the most beautiful hotels on the Strip, especially in 71 when it was all aqua fountains outside.
Yes.
And you drove around the circle and it was just glittering
Yes.
aqua water and fountains, and it was like, an oasis in the desert. And it was very much the desert still in
Yes.
71. There were dust storms that did not have
You wore sunglasses always.
all the time. And you put foil on your windows, not just to keep the sun out, but to keep out the sand.
Forgot that.
Because those sandstorms did not have tall buildings to stop them.
And cement. Everything's cemented over now.
Yeah.
But what about the Passerelle at the Stardust?
The Stardust or the
Yeah.
Tropicana?
No, the Stardust had the Passerelle.
I loved it. I mean, we did the whole African number on that passerella.
And maybe explain.
Elephants.
Yeah, go ahead and explain what the passerella
A
is. We know.
passerella is a curved runway around the stage with a center runway that connects it. And there were actually, we called it the pit. There were tables because people still had dinner in 70, 79, 80, 81
Yeah,
at the
that
Stardust.
first dinner show.
It was a dinner show and then a late show, and then on Saturdays we did 3 shows. But we all had a night off.
Yeah.
And we had plenty of swing people when I was there, so you could take vacations.
But it was very intimate because
But it was very
you would go right
intimate.
into the audience.
Yeah, and the people that sat down in the pit, I think those were the expensive seats.
Yeah, or right along the edge of the passerelle.
Well, that was the King's Row. That was King's Row around the curved part of the passerella.
Okay.
Those booths. They had those big booths,
and
remember?
the tables too. There were tables.
And there were
along.
little cocktail
Yes,
tables down
yes.
below. So it was, and I'll tell you, Siegfried and Roy were the star of the show, and I was at the Lido from 79 to 81, and we literally sold out every show. There was never a seat in the house. You would have loved it.
Yeah. Do you remember? I remember rehearsals for the Lido, and you'd be up in the light booth, and you'd be watching your spot for 2 weeks while you were rehearsing during the day. And then when Siegfried and Roy came on, you had to step out
Right.
outside because you could see, you
Their
know,
magic.
more what was going on from the light booth, and you had to
Right.
sign a little.
We had to
paper.
sign a contract.
Yeah, saying that you wouldn't.
Non-disclosure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely. We were not allowed to share their secrets, their magic secrets. However, later, years later, there was a magician special on, and they revealed the secrets
I
of all the great
remember
magicians.
that.
You know,
Yeah.
David Copperfield and Siegfried and Roy.
Yes.
And it was, I was like, wow, we signed all those contracts for it to eventually be out in the open for everyone to learn about.
Yeah.
But it was a fascinating show.
It really was.
It was really good. But having Siegfried and Roy star in the show
Yeah.
was
Big.
the best. That was, of all the shows, it was my favorite show.
That was a good show.
And I loved working with them. They were so wonderful to us.
They were.
They were always having, you know, little parties for the cast and parties for the cast and crew, and it was so nice of them. You know, they'd
Yes.
have every now and then they'd have a big party. And also, while I was there, I did 2 NBC specials with Siegfried and Roy.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, we did 2. We aired 2 NBC specials with them, and I think Lola Falana hosted one,
Wow.
and there was another host on the other one. They were really good, so I got to see those. And we danced. We did our show. We were the background for their magic. So you saw a lot of the dance numbers that we were doing at Ale Lido in that special.
Oh, wow.
All around the passerella,
Yeah.
the cameras were. So that made a great TV special.
Yeah, they left shortly after I came into the show, and I remember they had a big party, and we all said
Oh,
goodbye.
yeah, they were great
And
to
that
us.
was sad to see them leave.
Yeah, but they went to the they went to
They
the
got their
Riviera.
own show.
First they went to the Riviera.
Or didn't they do their tour in Japan, and then they came back?
I know that they went to the Riviera and did Beyond Belief or something, because Karen Letham went and danced in that show.
Okay.
And her husband, Neil, was our boys' line captain
Okay.
at the Lido. And Karen was a bluebell. We called them, this is all in my book too. We have all the stories.
And you're going to be reading something from
I'm
your
going to
book
be
here
reading
soon.
something, and it
Yeah.
has to do, in fact, I'll save that story I was about to tell, because it's about that very thing. It's about all of the people backstage had powerful other careers.
Mm-hmm.
Neil was a hairstylist, and Karen was a manicurist, and Ellen was a real estate agent, and Barbara was at UNLV, and Shirley was becoming a real estate agent. Everybody had something else that they were pursuing
Yes.
outside of their dance careers. And all of us were close in age, late 20s to early 30s. There were a lot of us right around that end of their career stage. So,
Yeah, yeah. Well, so we need to take a little break.
Okay.
And then we'll come back and we'll have you read a section from your book. I'd
Oh,
love
good.
to hear that.
I'd love to, and that's very much about our transitions.
Good, I
into
look
other
forward to
careers.
it. Okay.
Me too.
Hello, my name is Mona Van Joseph, and I'm known locally as Mystic Mona. And I want to welcome you to a new program here on WWDBTV called 3. 3 is an amazing concept where a caller will call in, they will ask a specific question, and Chris Gray, our astrologer, Rainy Day, our clairvoyant medium, and myself, I'm an intuitive tarot consultant, will actually answer your one specific question. So all I want you to remember is 3.Vegas, one question, 3 readers, 3 answers, exclusively here on WWDBTV.
Okay, we're back from our short break, and Diane's going to read us a chapter from her book, The Last Real Showgirl.
Absolutely. I'm so excited to share some of my book. The book is available for pre-order right now on Amazon, Goodreads, and by my publisher, McFarland, and should be out around early April to mid-April for delivery. So if you're interested in reading all the juicy stories, it'll be out soon enough. I chose to read one of the later chapters in my book, which has more to do with all of us getting ready to do something else, and that we just spoke about earlier. So I thought that would be appropriate. And there's some fun tell-alls in here too.
Nice.
This is called, well, my publishers didn't let me do all the tell-alls, but I understand they're risk averse. So this is chapter 31. It's called Wild West, and it takes place in 1979. I was blown away by the exceptional Ali Lido production. The phenomenal Siegfried and Roy were astounding magicians. I was excited about the numerous outside opportunities available to me in Vegas. I liked making money. I wound up working nonstop for the 3 years I was employed at the Stardust. I worked in feature films, fashion shows, television and radio commercials, voiceover, print work, and TV shows. It was never ending. But the real treasures in Vegas weren't the outside jobs, the fantastic production I was in, or the acting opportunities. It was the alarmingly brilliant cast of the Lido de Paris. I have never experienced a cast quite like the one in Ali Lido, and I'm not sure whether it was because we were all close in age, or the fun disco mentality of the late 70s, or that almost everyone had a major interest in something substantial besides dancing. Dancers usually came to Vegas to complete their careers because those were the cushy dance jobs. Great pay, unlimited days off if needed, and everyone was preparing to do something else once they couldn't dance anymore. We also had great insurance. A dancer's career normally ends by the time they reach 35. My roommate Barbara Beverly was going to school full-time at UNLV, majoring in English. All the other dancers in that show had something else going on too. There were lots of go-getters. And I can't think of one soul, including the dressers and crew, that I didn't absolutely love. Barbara and I had a very close-knit group of friends who hung out every week. Barbara and Kim Cornell and her husband Kenny, the youngest maitre d' in Las Vegas, would spend Thursdays with us before work. My boyfriend Vince got along with everyone, and he was a huge part of the fun. Our posse also included Kathy Schreiner and her Italian husband Nino, both singers. There was Cheryl Fraza, a beautiful principal dancer who was fun to cavort with. Kim Lonsdale and Sharon Tagano were absolute dolls. Then there was James Maxwell and the boy dancers from Southern California. He was a boy dancer from Southern California who'd started his career at Disneyland. James and I became very close. He exuded a sort of spiritual sexuality that was his superpower. He was incredibly charismatic and much loved by everyone. There was the boys' line captain, Neil Letham, and his wife, Bluebell Karen, two of my all-time favorite people to play with. The darling Linda Farrell was a stunning Welsh girl who charmed all of us. Beautiful Jane Millette and I had everything in common, sharing our love of all those things. We liked dancing, knitting, acting, and musical comedy. We never stopped sharing our love of those things. Michael Baker was our warm-hearted, gorgeous South African ballet dancer who looked much like Nureyev with a heart of gold. Canadian Kenny Maslow was an exceptional Lido singer who kept us constantly laughing backstage with his whip-smart humor. He, Neil Lethem, and the hysterical Britisher Neil McGee entertained us between shows like it was their job. Doug Woods, Jim Zarrell, and Bob Michaels were also very dear to me. Then there was hilarious Mindy Hall, a darling former Ice Capade skater and showgirl, who had once dated Vince, my boyfriend, when they were skaters. So we became very close and shared hundreds of stories, laughing every night backstage. Shirley Allen became another lifelong friend. Liz Hayden was our outstanding nudes line captain at the time. She was intelligent, gorgeous, and loved everyone. She was the most supportive person I knew in any show, anywhere. Liz had a way of getting everyone to stay on top of their game without ever offending anyone. She loved you into being great. The adorable Susie Bauckham later became the Las Vegas judge for 12 years straight, and I believe she's judge again.
Yes, she is.
Back in business, I loved her too. Talk about another career. Then there was Marion Palmer, a former competitive swimmer who'd never, ever lost her exceptional athletic figure or edge and loved to have fun. Joanna Pacito, one of my dearest friends, eventually became the nudes line captain when Liz left. Joanna was Mama Bear to all the girls, and we loved her for that. Diane Duckworth was only there for a short time. She's now Diane Varney. When she left, she became a top masseuse at the Bellagio. And after a 10-year stint as a masseuse, with her amazing healing energy, she became the #1 real estate agent in Las Vegas. Still is.
Right,
A
yeah.
brilliant and beautiful goddess. Several of the boys I couldn't get enough of, Jeff Adair, Carter Poust, and John Kendricks. Carter and John would later become my all-time favorite couple. Then there was John Kleinlein, Herbie Korn, Clem Zalewski, and Doug Woods. Each held a special place in my heart. The boy dancers I became closest to were James Maxwell and Vimy Kruger, a gorgeous blonde South African who was also a top photographer in Las Vegas, outside the Lido. He was in a relationship with Roy Van Oy, another dynamic boy in the show. I became a makeup artist for Vimy's photo shoots, and we were also dance partners in the African number. We remained very close until his passing in 2022. For a time, I was secretly in love with Vimy, and he wanted me to have a baby with him and asked me to live with him and his lover. And I'm like, I know we love each other, Vimy, but I don't think so. Told you there was some juicy things in here. My other dearest friend was singer Michael Gallagher, who got me back into acting full-time with his incredible coach, Joseph Bernard. I'll never forget the first scene we did together in the studio from Same Time Next Year. We moved to Los Angeles at the same time and became working actors while studying together at Strasberg's with Academy Award nominee Sally Kirkland. Michael was the first person I lost to AIDS, the epidemic that really started in 1983. Of course, many of the brilliant, beloved talents I've mentioned here were lost to AIDS by the mid-1980s, the most heartbreaking time of my life. We lost so many of our nearest and dearest, and my heart still breaks for them and their families. I mention these people by name because we had something so special, unlike anything I'd ever known. There was a wonderful balance of male-female, yin-yang energies that made our time together a pure love fest. No other time has ever compared to the camaraderie we shared in that production. And most of those I named here, who are still with us, are still some of my closest friends. It felt like we were all magnetized to one another and were destined to be close friends forever. Not only did we work together, but we partied hard together. We put the wild in Wild West. You can imagine the onstage presence we shared and the vivacious energy we generated in that show. I believe that the Ale Lido show, which Don Arden and Miss Bluebell had produced in 2 locations, Las Vegas and Paris, was their longest running production. I'm sure it had more to do with the outstanding energy imprinted on the very boards of that stage and in the fabric of the curtains by the loving, talented cast. My initial 2-week rehearsals were the start of it all. That's when I met Shirley Allen, a beautiful blonde 30-something showgirl who was making her Lido comeback after a brief hiatus. I learned so much about Las Vegas from her. Boy, did Shirley have stories to tell.
She did.
And she's the only person I know who actually dated Elvis.
That's right.
So there's a chapter
Wow.
later in the book. Yeah.
That's a good chapter.
And I brought something for Showgirl Show and Tell.
Oh, I would love to.
My very last night at the Lido, the boys went into the costume vault and made me this choker
I love it.
as a little memento to go away. And
Fun.
they signed my name in it, Diana Mann, July 2nd, 1981, Lido. You can see the inside of that. So I've never worn it, but I keep it close to my
Oh,
heart.
absolutely.
So sweet of them.
Thank you for that show and tell.
I know.
Wow.
Little mementos.
Well, if you look at the mannequin behind us,
Uh-huh.
that was my gown in Enter the Night.
Oh, your last show,
Yeah,
right?
because I was in the original cast of Enter the Night, and that was my gown. And then that's
Wow.
a headpiece from the Folies Bergère.
Oh, yes. I recognize that.
Yes,
I recognize that from photos
yes.
and programs of the Follies.
Yep, that was in a
during
lot of
that time.
promo.
And you know, I'm wanted to point out, one of our viewers asked me about our jewelry.
Oh, yes.
And I wanted to acknowledge, we have the same jewelry designer, and it's Minda Burr Jewelry.
It's so
And everything
beautiful.
she makes is magical, sturdy,
Everything she does.
lasts forever. And I
Yeah.
just wanted to let those who were interested know that you can go to Instagram and buy Minda Burr Jewelry. I know
Yes.
that we do.
Yes, we do.
She
Yes.
does beautiful work.
She really, just so unique.
I know,
All
they're,
of her pieces are,
and they look so good on Showgirls.
yes. That's so true.
Yes, and this was one of Minda's second careers after she was acting. She was a young actress and
Okay.
director and founder of a theater company in Los Angeles, the Alliance Theater. So talk about many incarnations. And we're not done yet. More to come. I'm
More to
certain
come?
my book will be a limited
Oh.
series.
Yes.
That's what I'll do after the book tour.
And who is the actress that also wears a lot of her jewelry?
Several. Susan Anton.
Susan Anton.
wears Minda Burr
She
jewelry.
used to
Tyra Banks.
Yes, and Susan Anton used to perform in the Showroom Theater next to which is now the Jubilee
Right.
Theater.
Right.
Yeah, and she used to perform in the
And
theater next to us.
Carter Post and John Kendricks worked at the Palm Springs Follies, and Susan was a headliner in the show because Barbara and Neil and I would always go to the shows.
That's right.
And see them in the Palm Springs Follies. It was a great reason to get together, and I had Gypsy Camp 1 in Palm Springs, which was a lot of us that got together in a mansion that was donated to me by one of my students.
Nice.
A young actor's mother was a real estate agent, and in Palm Springs.
And then there was Gypsy Camp 2 at the
and then
Bellagio.
John had Gypsy Camp 2 at the Bellagio, and that's when I met your son for the first time.
That's right.
Yeah, in a
Yeah.
cabana by the pool
Yes. Oh,
that the boys had treated us to.
yes, they did. That was a
Bless
great.
their hearts.
I want to say 100 people showed up to that as well.
Oh, I think
Easy.
it was a little more. I think it was closer to 150.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was really fun.
that really was.
So much fun.
We love our reunions.
We do.
We really do.
And I'm sure you have another one coming up soon.
We're talking about
We're creating one
another one coming up.
along with the book launch.
Yes,
So,
combining the book lunch with a Showgirl reunion.
Yeah, and we're hoping to do that in May if we can find the right venue.
That's right.
So something to look forward to. I think that's what keeps us going. All the things that we have to look forward to.
Yes, I
And a lot
agree.
of that has to do with our dancers. And for a lot of my actor friends and students in LA say, oh, it's so cool that you dancers all get together still and that you keep having reunions. So people admire us for
They
that.
do.
They admire that we
Same
keep
here.
it
I
going.
mean, yeah. So, and it's like we don't skip a beat. I mean, a lot of us were in shows together 30 plus years ago,
Oh, yeah.
and then you see each other, and it's like
Like yesterday.
like yesterday. There's such a bond. I can't
And even
explain
you and
it.
I, Luann, who are dear, dear friends now, I didn't even meet you until you created the Showgirl, the Stardust reunion.
The cast and crew reunion in 2006.
And then you created the Showgirl Legacy Foundation,
That's right.
which was an offshoot of that beautiful reunion with
Oh.
650 dancers.
Yes.
And that's when I decided to write the book. At the same time.
Wow.
That
So you've
all
been working
happened.
on that book for
20 years.
20 years. Well, I loved your book, and I can hardly
Thank
wait
you.
for it to come out. I am one of the fortunate few that got to read it,
Yes.
but it's such an easy read, and I
Oh,
could
good.
not put it down. I
Oh,
could not put it
good.
down. I
Yeah.
mean, just
Thank you.
wonderful stories and insights. And insights that I could relate to, but I think that anybody could relate to.
Yeah, because there's a young life in there. And I think that's one of the things that I love reading when I read other people's books about their dance careers. Because this book only takes place from 69 to 81, just my dancing years.
Yeah, just 3 years.
Yeah. 69 to 81.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
12 years.
Yeah, just my dancing years.
Yes.
And it's not a cradle to grave story, and it doesn't, I mean, I have many more books after that. My
Yes,
acting
I'm sure you
career in
do.
Los Angeles, believe me.
Yeah.
But I love everybody's stories.
There's some great
They're
stories.
fascinating. I just finished Eric Brown's book, who I worked with in Paris.
Okay.
Eric Brown's a California boy who Barbara and I lived with in Paris. We were all roommates and worked at the Lido. And he's written 5 books.
Wow.
And he has broken it down, and he's self-published because he's an artist. He just wants to keep making art. He's a great artist. He's a yoga teacher. He's my age. He's in his 70s. So he just keeps cranking out creative projects. And his last book, The Backside of Paris, is just about the years in Paris when we were roommates. So it's fascinating, and he's hilarious.
Oh, and Sherry Lewis. I mean, she did our
Right.
Bluebells Forever book.
That book is just
Oh,
gold.
with collections of how many
And I'm in
people's
that.
stories. Yes, yeah.
Yeah, and I did a podcast. So
Yes.
those were her podcasts of 82 or 84, something,
Yeah.
dancers that she had had on
Yes.
podcast.
Yeah,
And then
and
she
she-
transformed
And then
that.
she's got another book out that
I finished that too,
and
Full Circle.
Full Circle, and I'm just starting to read that
It was
book.
very good.
Yes,
And you know, what a journey she had.
yes,
Whew, we've all been through some stuff.
yes, we have.
And dancing saved a lot of us.
Yes,
So does acting for me.
yes.
The theater, performing, just takes you through those hard times
Yeah.
and makes it all worth it.
And I can't thank you enough. You've been with us for 4 episodes.
Well, I'm looking forward to the next
I'm
one.
going to miss you desperately.
I'll be
until
back.
you come back again, probably in
For the book launch.
The book launch, which should be
Should be
sometime around May.
Should be around
And
May.
that will be the Showgirl reunion at the same time.
Yeah.
And then we'll be sure to have you on right before that book launch. And we
Great,
can,
we'll do it together.
yes,
We'll
and
combine it.
yes, and maybe we'll even get John to come out to
Oh,
our
that would be
Showgirl
great,
reunion and the
John.
book launch.
Our-
He's given us a thumbs up. Thank you so much, John, for giving us this opportunity for the Showgirl Connection to
live.
To live. We can't thank you enough. And I think that's it for today. I think we're
Yeah.
coming to the end of our
Showgirls
our
forever.
4-episode journey.
Yeah, we're headed into our last one. I can't
Yes.
wait.
Yes.
Oh, thank you, Luann.
Oh, thank
I've
you.
enjoyed it.
Thank you. So we will see you on the next episode of the Showgirl Connection.